Senator John C. Stennis, General Bratton, distinguished platform guests, and distinguished visitors. My name is Glover Wilkins, and I am soon to become the Administrator Emeritus of the Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway. Good afternoon. This is a beautiful day and an even more beautiful occasion. At this time, I would like to call on the Executive Director of the Tombigbee River Valley Water Management District, an organization that is the Mississippi sponsor of this waterway, as well as the one who plans for and manages the water needs of the Tombigbee Basin, to give the invocation. Larry represents an organization that is and has been very vital to the well-being of this waterway. Mr. Larry Otis.
Let us pray. Our Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather today, and we thank you for the intelligence of men that have enabled us to foresee the opportunity that would be with this facility. We thank you for the cooperation that has taken place between the federal government, the state government, and the local communities. We pray a blessing upon the opportunities that lie ahead of us in northeast Mississippi and Alabama, for the opportunities that lie in opportunities with jobs, industry, and development. Be with us through this day, Lord, and may the events of this day make history for tomorrow. Amen.
Thank you, Larry. I only wish that the first director of this organization, Mr. Thompson Pound, could have been with us on this great day. Now at this time, I would like to ask that you stand and face the flag while the combined bands of Tishomingo County play the national anthem. You know, hearing those fine bands play this great anthem makes us one and all proud to be Americans. Just as standing here at this great structure makes us proud of America and what the U.S. Corps of Engineers have done for the people of this area. At this time, I would like to ask Congressman Jack Edwards of Alabama to come forward. For almost 2 decades, the 1st District of Alabama has been represented by a congressman who is leaving Congress at the end of this year, and I might say voluntarily. It was his own wish. Jack wanted to leave Congress 2 years ago. However, the future of the Tennessee-Tombigbee at this time was still very much in doubt. I joined his many friends in urging that he stay on for another 2 years, which he did. Jack Edwards has helped in many ways getting Tin Tom built, but I think most of all he is the conduit to the White House, ever since he influenced President Nixon to come to Mobile and start the waterway. Jack, we will miss you in the halls of Congress, and as I present this plaque to you in great recognition of the great work you have done, I wish for you and Joe Lane the very best. Thank you very much. You want to say something? You know, absent from the platform today is my congressman, G.V. Sonny Montgomery, who through the years has been a staunch supporter of the waterway. Sonny called me Friday to say that President Reagan had asked that he lead a congressional delegation to El Salvador this weekend to observe the elections. As important as Central America is to us in the Caribbean basin now, I'm sure that you will understand Sonny's absence. He did ask me to extend to you his best wishes and to say he looks forward to being with us on June 1st, 1985, when we dedicate the entire waterway. And at this time, I would like to ask Chairman Jamie Whitten of the 1st District of Mississippi to join me at the podium. Unquestionably, Jamie Whitten has been the lifeblood in the long struggle to bring the Tennessee-Tombigbee into being. It has been said so many times, were it not for Jamie Whitten, there would be no Tin Tom Waterway. If there is anyone who can vouch for that statement, it is me, and I assure you that that is a fact. The Tin Tom star rose and began to shine in 1966 when Jamie Whitten moved into the Tin Tom area. At first, he represented only a few counties in the extreme northeast section of Mississippi. Now he extends all the way down to the Lowndes County line. Mr. Whitten was deeply involved in and mostly responsible for getting the first money to be appropriated for the waterway. The fact that we are here today dedicating the completion of the divide is due to his ingenuity in demanding that the waterway be started from both ends and work toward the middle, rather than being started on the southern end and working upstream as is customarily done. This strategy probably saved the waterway. Mr. Whitten amended the language in the Highway Act in the mid-1970s, which allowed the state of Mississippi and Alabama to meet their responsibilities for building the bridges across the waterway. Even though our two states put up almost $75 million, which was many, many times more than the original Corps of Engineers estimates, we would have been unable to meet these obligations without Mr. Whitten's help. In the lawsuit, the plaintiffs were contended that they knew nothing about the widening of the waterway. However, Mr. Whitten pointed to the congressional record of 1970 where he told the Appropriations Committee publicly that the waterway would be widened to 300 feet. This completely cut the rug out from under the allegations of the plaintiffs. To complete the waterway for the last 2 years, Mr. Whitten directed that we use available funds already on hand to finish the waterway. This precluded the necessity of another struggle in the House and in the Senate, where the vote was becoming closer and closer. I could go on in naming the things Mr. Whitten has done to be sure that there would be a Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway. But most of you already know them. So it is a great deal of pride I present this plaque to Mr. Whitten, and I present Mr. Whitten to you. Thank you, sir.
My friend Glover Wilkins and distinguished Mississippians, visitors, this is a great occasion, and I appreciate all those remarks that my friend Glover Wilkins made about me. Best thing in life is to come along at the right time. And may I say that as we look here on this waterway, which is going down in future history as one of the great things that happened in our country, I feel awfully lucky to have come along at the right time. Before I respond to those very fine statements on the part of my friend Glover, let me say that Glover has been the one man, its voice has always been lifted over the years for the Tennessee-Tombigbee. I can't vouch for this being true, but I heard it anyway. But the story goes that Glover, after being in his present job for a long time, was in a train wreck out west in an isolated area, and one of the hobos on the train was killed, and in the wreck the train had to stop, and there was a boy that could do only nothing except wait in this little town while the preacher said the last words over this hobo was killed. And of course he did the best he could. The preacher didn't know who he was, where he was going, or anything about him. So when he got through, he said, "Now, is there anyone else that'd like to say something?" And the report is that Glover said, "Well, if nobody else is going to say anything, I'd like to talk to you about the Tennessee-Tombigbee a little bit." I made that statement, but I want to start off as I intended to by stating on the part of our distinguished governor, Governor Lane of Mississippi, he sent us this wire, which I received this morning. "I regret I cannot be with you today for the very historic occasion. At last minute legislative session to consider a massive government reorganization bill has forced me to remain in Jackson. Please be assured that our state of Mississippi and my administration are fully committed to the developments of the Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway. I hope you'll express my regrets too to our neighbor governor, Governor Wallace, who I'm sure will fill in for both of us in a great way. And I'm glad to say that we do have with us an outstanding Southerner, an outstanding American, a great governor of a adjoining state, and our friend through the years. Governor Wallace, we're glad to hear from you at this time."
Thank you very much, Representative Whitten. I want to say to you and to Senator Stennis and all those who are distinguished guests who are on the platform here today, it's indeed a pleasure to be here in Mississippi with you today in this dedication ceremony, for the simple reason that this is a long dreamed of project that started many, many years ago. And there are many people who supported it long years ago who are not here today. But the master of ceremonies, along with Senator Stennis and others that I will not name, have had tremendous impact on this program coming to a successful conclusion. So I say it's a pleasure for me to take part in this program as the completion of this significant section of the Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway is a single accomplishment toward the final completion of the project we hope and trust will come by the midpoint of next year. I might say that this project is running ahead of schedule. Many contract, and for that we are grateful to the Corps of Engineers, the many contractors who have worked on the authority project, and the men and women who have put forth their labor efforts toward the completion, and not only this section, but all of the waterway that has been built and is currently under construction. I can well remember the day in 1971 when President Richard Nixon came to Mobile, Alabama, and broke ground on the construction of the Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway. This project has been talked about, discussed for a century or more in this country. Many doubted at that time they would ever see the project completed, because when President Nixon came to Mobile and broke ground for construction, Congress still had not appropriated any funding for the construction of the waterway. We must remember the valuable contributions made to this waterway by those in Congress, many of those who are here with us today, and also, but I can attest to the likes of Jamie Whitten, Jack Edwards, Tom Beverell, Thomas Abernathy, Senator Stennis, the late Senator Jim Allen of Alabama, John Sparkman, Senator Heflin, Senator Denton from Alabama, and of course, I mentioned them all, Senator John Stennis, and of course, former Senator John Eastland of Mississippi. And the fine senators from Tennessee, Florida, and Kentucky have meant so much to the funding development of this waterway. Largely because of the efforts of those in Congress, President Nixon picked up himself and his staff in Washington and came to Mobile for the groundbreaking to put the limelight on this project in an effort to strengthen the funding effort in Congress. It was a finishing touch that was needed to commence the funding of the long-talked-about waterway. When this project completed next year, it will be the largest public works program ever undertaken by our nation. Now that we have mastered all the obstacles and this waterway is a certainty, I challenge all of us who are members of the compact state. We must maximize the use of this waterway. We must set the markets around the world and the advantages of shipping through the port of Mobile and down through Mississippi all over the world. We must encourage industrial development and investment development all along this canal. And I want to compliment, as I said, Mr. Jamie Whitten and Tom Beverell and all those and the members of the Congress here. And I might say, including that Glover Wilkins, who has been the executive secretary, has pushed this so long, beginning way back in the days of Governor Jim Folsom, who sent, I think, the first $100,000 check to the waterway, who is not here today. But I want to compliment Glover Wilkins because you've been really pushing the states and we've responded. I also like to mention a late departed leader on our committee in Alabama, Barrett Shelton, who was also one of the founders of the idea of thinking about this in modern times. I might say in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, when I was in Japan recently, I saw Prime Minister Nakasone of that great country, and when I went to see him, to discuss with him matters of industrial development in our region of the country, as I sat there, he had in front of him a picture of the southeastern part of the United States, and also he had outlined the Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway. And he already knew, as the Prime Minister of Japan, that this was the biggest public works project ever built in the United States of America. So I congratulate all those here on the platform, and Jamie, thank you very much for your kind words. And I hope that next year, during the time that I will be the chairman, along with, I hope the committee will make Governor Allain and I co-chairman, so we can celebrate the final completion of it in July of next year and invite the President of the nation to come and to open it and final completion, and also the former presidents who are living, who played a great part in this great project. Thank you very much, my friends, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Governor Wallace, and may I say again, this is a national project, but there's two states it goes through, is Mississippi and Alabama, which makes us partners in looking after what is a national program and a national project. I come now, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished senior senator, Senator John Stennis. And when John finishes his service in the Congress, that may be years ahead of us, there's nothing that will be greater than the work that he's done for the Tennessee-Tombigbee. We have kind of mistreated him a little bit here today. We are operating under the House rules. That's a 5-minute speech. So with all due deference to our good friend, we are glad to honor you here. And may I say again, not only has he rendered great service, but in this great service and at the top of the list is the Tennessee-Tombigbee. My friend John Stennis.
Governor Wallace and fellow members of our Congress and other friends here from other states and all you Mississippians, let me first warmly thank and heartily congratulate our neighbor governor here, Governor Wallace. He made a fine statement there, one of the best I ever heard for an occasion like this. And we appreciate very much his presence and what he's done. I want to thank, too, with emphasis, have already been mentioned, those that are responsible for the organization of our Tennessee-Tombigbee organization of 6 states. It was formed some 12, 15 years ago, cooperated so heartily and so effectively, helped out from beginning to the end. Glover Wilkins, his fine secretaries, other members of the staff, you all did a great work. I want to mention another point, friends. I've been in the Congress a while, good while, and we have our ups and downs there, and there were plenty of downs in connection with these years of trying to get the money. But there was always a basic, supreme satisfaction in the minds and hearts of all of us that we were working against odds sometime, but we were working for the future welfare of the people of the states that sent us there and the people that we love. And I stand here today now in confidence that this project and its future use for 10 years, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, and on a while longer will be serving this area and serving it well and giving it a better opportunity to earn and to learn and to save and to have the things of life that make it worthwhile. I'm confident of that. That's why I'm so happy about this occasion. Now let me mention another thing that comes to my mind. There's only one organization of professional men and women in the whole world that could have conceived this plan from beginning to end, had the skill and the scientific knowledge to put it on paper and in blueprints, and then the knowledge and experience to go out into the field and put it into action here and to build the physical part of this tremendous undertaking. Also had the skill and know-how in their profession with help withstand lawsuits, attacks and discreditings of all kinds. I never saw under personal attack that they did not deserve. I never saw one single member of that great organization quiver or hesitate or lose patience, but kept their eye on the ball and played the game for our benefit. They are the only organization in the world that could have fathered and put over this plan, and I refer to our United States Army engineers. I've trusted them before, and I've never found them wanting in that ability and in that skill, and we are grateful to you indeed. I'm proud of what we see here, this happiness in the faces of the people. I can tell it. And we have cause not only here, but people in the other states, throughout our own states, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, all the surrounding states, and in all that area that's going to be served by this project, and it'll be many. I was over here and saw them unloading a barge, the Alabama-Mississippi line last year, shelled seed corn from southern Illinois, ordered a shipping route for the grow of that corn, furnished a cheaper route for the man who was paying the freight. He told me himself he saved $1,300 on that one journey alone. They had to go by New Orleans, come over to Mobile, and come north. What will they be able to save when they come due south, where it'll be downhill for that one all the way? So I look upon this, too, with happiness, because I know it's a tool. I think we're going to have another great era of development in this country. It'll be delayed some. Our money's in trouble. but it's coming. And this time, perhaps for the first time, we in the Southeast are going to have a real chance to participate in and enjoy the fruits of that fine new growth. And this project here will be up front in rendering a fundamental service that will make it possible. And we'll use it as a tool. We didn't get in on these other periods of growth. We had that war of over 100 years ago. We didn't have the capital. We didn't have the furnishings. We didn't have the physical things that were necessary. We missed a whole lot of other chances, too, for solid growth. This time we're going to be up front. We have tools like this. We have the people who have the know-how, the productivity of our people that work with the hand as well as the head is equal to and over the rest. Well, I'm sure my 5 minutes is up. Thank you, and God bless you all.
May I add that those on the platform have all been friends and are friends of the Tennessee-Tombigbee. But I do want you to know that they are only a very small percentage of those that deserve credit. But we have with us today our distinguished junior senator from Mississippi, Honorable Thad Cochran, also an interested friend who's been there when he was needed on the 10-tone. Honorable Thad Cochran, United States Senator.
Thank you very much, Congressman Whitten. Thank you. It's a great pleasure for me to participate in this dedication ceremony today. When Governor Wallace was mentioning that this project that connects the Tennessee-Tombigbee with the Gulf of Mexico was conceived, over 100 years have elapsed. I was reading, coming down here today, the fact that Bienville, who was the founder of the city of Mobile, had presented this idea to the King of France way before that. But that in 1874, Congress authorized an economic survey be done to try to determine the economic feasibility of this project. Here, 110 years later, we're together to dedicate one of the most important parts of this very valuable project that's not just of regional significance, it benefits a few states, but the entire nation. During the past 12 years that I have served in the Congress, first in the House of Representatives and then in the Senate, we have heard critics of this project denounce it as being a boondoggle. We've had to argue and counter attacks that have been made against the project on the floor of the House and the Senate, and we've won those battles. It's been a pleasure to be a part of it and to see today it's so close to final reality. I join with all of you today to acknowledge the fact that there are many, many individuals throughout our state and neighboring states who've played such an important role in making this a reality. It's great to be here with you and acknowledge those contributions. Thank you for inviting me to be with you today. Thank you.
It's my privilege now to introduce to you Honorable Tom Abernathy. Tom represented this district and got it in good shape just before I got credit to come over here and get the thing moving still further. Tom set a fast pattern for anybody to follow, and nobody could be more interested or do a better job of looking after you people in this section of the state of Mississippi than Tom Abernathy. We are glad to have Tom here with us, and won't you come around and say a word, Tom? Thank you, sir.
Well, I'm just a has-been. You know, I've been out of the Congress for 11 years, and I'm spending my time now raising grandchildren and having little to do with the waterway. But I'm pleased to be here. I appreciate the privileges that the people of this area and people of other sections of Mississippi accorded me to represent them in the Congress and I greatly appreciate the opportunity that was mine, if I may so say, to pull this project from what was believed to have been a permanent burial place, which took place back in 1941. In 1956, I believe it was, with the strong help of one of the greatest men that ever served in the Congress, who is no longer with us this day and time, Sam Rayburn of Texas, who was then Speaker of the House. It was our privilege and our opportunity, with a strong vote in the House of Representatives, to put it back on the track. I've had a lot of experiences in my life. I've had many experiences in the Congress. And I say to you very candidly, I'm very sincere in saying that I feel that of the 30 years and the various things that I was privileged to do in the Congress, I feel that that was the greatest accomplishment of my life and my career. I just wish, I deeply wish, that the one who really laid the bedrock groundwork for this project, John Rankin, could be here today.
We have with us today, and he's always been up here for the moment, our friend Jack Edwards from Alabama. As I told you earlier, there's just no limit to those that contributed to the Tennessee-Tombigbee, including all of you who are here. But Jack Edwards did something that counts along the line, too. He got the President of the United States to provide money for the construction and to dedicate it at an early period. I think it was 1971. And my information is that Jack twisted the President's arm and said, "Mr. President, we got to have it in a hurry. I'm going to retire in 1984. And relying on Jack's threat that he's going to quit in 1984, and regretfully he is quitting, the President came through and then dedicated this at Mobile. Mobile's going to get the benefits of what we send them, and they're going to help us when they send us things. Jack, won't you say a word?
Thank you, Jamie. They say that politicians should never complete a project such as this, because then you wouldn't have anything to run on. Well, we're completing it, so I'm going home. I never shall forget that day when I went and talked to President Nixon about putting the first construction money into his budget. And as I recall, he only put $1 million in there. But his remark to me when I said, "Mr. President, we've simply got to have this project underway. I can't imagine anything better you can do in our part of the country than to put the construction money in your budget." And he looked at me and he said, "Is that blankety blank project still kicking around?" Well, it's been a great 15 years since then. We've come a long way, and come next June, we'll be through. And I want to join with all the folks here at the podium and all those who've gone before us and all those who are not here but have worked with us. There's no one person can claim the credit for this great project. So many, many have worked on it. And I'm just proud to have had one small part to play in it. Thank you so very much.
I'm next going to call on a friend and colleague of mine who, Tom Bevel, you know, is chairman of the subcommittee that's done all the real hard work. I don't mean Tom has done it all, but that subcommittee is the one that really works day in and day out. I'm proud to have been a member of it for many years and still be a member of it. But John Myers truly is, as Tom Bevel says, an all-American member of Congress. Nobody in Congress has worked harder for more areas of the United States effectively than John Myers has. And may I stutter for the moment because his wife is in the audience. So Carol, would you stand? Ms. Miles is here. I take occasion to ask my wife, Rebecca, to stand also. And I saw Alice Abernathy here. I think we'd be lost if Alice didn't stand. Am I right about that? Alice, how are you? John Miles truly is all-American in that whether it's California, Mississippi, or Maine, whether it's the state of Washington or the Mount St. Helens or wherever it is, you can count on John Miles being there and carrying his share of the load. And at this time, before I present him, I want to call attention to the fact, too, that our good friend Tom Bevel was unable to be here, but Mr. Charlie Watts, his assistant is. Mr. Watts, I understood Mr. Watts was in the audience. But Tom sent you his regards, and nobody has his footprint on the tin Tom in any greater way than Tom Bevel. At this time, I present our good friend John Miles of Indiana. Incidentally, he started by Louisville, Kentucky, so his wife could win him enough money to come on down here.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and members of the congressional body here, Governor Wallace, Corps of Engineers, most importantly, the people here who are the taxpayers of the country that really made this day a reality. I guess this is the equal time provision that we in politics operate under. I'm the lone Yankee contribution today. Coming from Indiana, we really directly don't benefit from this great waterway, but indirectly, everyone in this country benefits when we spend our tax dollars for a program like this. So it's been a pleasure through the years that I've served on this subcommittee that's been appropriating money to continue this project. Quite frankly, and I came to Congress several years ago, this was still just an idea. We started advancing money for the study, and all of a sudden, because of the efforts of your congressman here, most of you, Congressman Jamie Whitten, because of that important position he holds in Congress as now chairman of the very important Appropriations Committee, and as a member of that committee, he made it possible through urging us in the subcommittee to spend the money. So I'm here first because of my admiration for Jamie Whitten, because you have a great congressman. And then of course, Glover Wilkins, I'm going to steal him as soon as he gets this finished. I've told him for years, we've got 2 or 3 projects up in Indiana. When we finally get this done, we're going to kidnap him. So you may miss him for a few years, but you'll hear from him. I'm sure he'll be just as successful. But it's a pleasure for Carol and me to be here today, to be on this very special occasion. We're looking forward to next year. And Jack Edwards, I'll have to say, I don't think this project will ever be finished. It's going to continue to grow, because that's what America's all about. So to you, the people who made this possible, coming from the North, I say congratulations.
You know, whoever's claims the most credit is what makes a car run, the spark plug or the battery or the wheels or what have you. But despite all the efforts of all of us, it never would have happened if we hadn't had the help of the people in the state. As I think back when Thompson Town, who was with Tombigbee Water Management District, signed the agreement that that district would pay for the crossings, I have always recognized that he was an optimist way back earlier. I'm fixing to present a man here that I never have known him to need much help. District Attorney, as I was, Circuit Judge, Attorney General, Governor, a Judge of the Court of Appeals. He's had to have a little help on this project, but he's done his share. Honorable J.P. Coleman was the governor of the state of Mississippi that set up the promotional group that Glover Wilkins has represented so well through the years. In other words, the beating of the drums, the awareness of the people of the United States of Mississippi of the bigness of this project, of its contributions to the future. It all started at the state legislative level with Honorable J.P. Coleman, and I present to you Governor Coleman at this time.
Mr. Chairman, Governor Wallace, my distinguished friends, fellow Mississippians, and fellow Americans, It's a great pleasure to be here 28 years after the day down in Columbus when Governor James E. Folsom, representing the state of Alabama, and I, representing the state of Mississippi, signed the compact which started the wheels to move in one more time toward the accomplishment of this great project. Lieutenant Governor Carroll Garton was there. He's been gone from us for 17 years. Governor Folsom and I are still alive to see what's done here. Also, I remember at that time that from Mississippi we had Senator Eastland and Senator Stennis. We had Congressman Abernathy and Congressman Whitten, Congressman Frank Smith, Congressman Arthur Winstead, Congressman John Bell Williams, and Congressman Colmer, who went to work to get this compact approved. Alabama and Mississippi working together. Once upon a time, all one state, so to speak, same territory. And then Tennessee and Kentucky and the other states came in and joined us. I appreciate very much the honor of being present to see this magnificent project coming to fruition. There's an old saying in this country that great oaks from little acorns grow. And there's another one about the faith of a grain of mustard seed. And they're both born out today. I'm especially glad to be here, of course glad to be with all of you and all these gentlemen on the platform who've been my friends a long time. Especially glad to be here with Governor Wallace. He and I worked together for 2 weeks in Chicago way back in 1956, now 28 years ago. And we're still able to be out and among the people who've been so good to us and that we love so well. Thank you very much.
As I pointed out to you, Governor Coleman was governor when this all started. Our next speaker, next on the program, is Honorable William Weller, a distinguished former governor and an outstanding Mississippian. During his tenure as governor, we completed the state's end of this matter, which is also necessary in order to have a cooperative program. Governor Weller was very active, and we did get the crossings, which were selected and had to be selected by the state legislature, but we got all of this done. And as I stand here, it's just still inconceivable to me that we've got this project that's big enough to register throughout the history of the United States. 100 years from now, this project will be in existence, and with the population then we have, as I point out later, this is a big project. And those who wrapped it up at the state level was our distinguished, the legislature, and our distinguished former governor, Honorable William Weller.
Mr. Chairman, Governor Wallace, other distinguished public officials, ladies and gentlemen, I can only echo what has already been said here about the significance of this great project. Of all of the activities that I was associated with as governor of Mississippi for the last 4 years, none gave me a greater sense of accomplishment or satisfaction than in seeing this waterway move to completion. I had the privilege of serving as chairman of the Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway Authority last year. And that happy announcement that came to us during that year, that finally, at long last, we had assured the total final completion of this great waterway, that, Glover Wilkins, was welcome news, as you will remember. I want to echo also one thing that has been said here by Congressman Miles and others, that we will not regard this as an accomplishment where we sit back and admire the waterway, but that we will be inspired to continue our efforts to make sure that the investment of the American taxpayers building this waterway is returned many times. I have every assurance that that will be the case, but it calls on us to work as hard for the development of the waterway as it has been for us to see that it was built in the first place. And I'm delighted to join with all of you here today
in this ceremony marking this final completion of this great project. Thank you very much.
You know, some of us are smarter than others. Our next man waited, we almost got it finished before he came to help us in Congress. But after talking to him, it wasn't his fault. He's going to be there to wrap it up. Honorable Don Lundquist of Tennessee, our neighbor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Distinguished members of the House and Senate, Governor Wallace, members of the Corps of Engineers, all who have made this project possible. Mr. Chairman, I am not here to claim any credit, obviously, but rather to congratulate you for your tenacity of purpose, for you and others who have had the courage, the dedication to go forward with this project, a project that will open up economic opportunity for many, many people, for new jobs, for a better life. So, Mr. Chairman, I thank you and all who have served and who have participated in this project, the authority members who are here today. Some of these authority members, I understand, are second-generation authority members. So it's a privilege for me to be part of this, to see the culmination of many, many hours and days and years of work that's ended up today on this very glorious occasion. So it's a privilege to be here and to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your tenacity of purpose, your strength, your leadership through all these years. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Now we come to those distinguished engineers who played such a great part. And may I say that not only here, but throughout the United States, they have been a great part of our ability to grow and meet the changes that have occurred. First, I come to Major General John Wall, Director of Civil Works, Office of the Chief of Engineers. General Wall. Next, Brigadier General R.S. Sam Kim, Division Engineer, Ohio River Division, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Next, Brigadier General Forrest L.T. Ted Gay, the 3rd Division Engineer, South Atlantic Division. Rear Admiral Sidney B. Vaughn, Commander, 2nd Coast Guard District. Colonel William I. Kirkpatrick, District Engineer of the Nashville District. Colonel Patrick J. Kelly, District Engineer, Mobile District. Colonel Lee W. Tucker, former District Engineer of the Nashville District. Colonel Robert K. Tenner, former District Engineer of the Nashville District. Mr. Jerry C. McDaniels, Resident Engineer. Divide Cut. Mr. Jerry Rayner, Area Engineer, Divide Section, Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway. Mr. Clyde R. Orr, Resident Engineer for the Bay Springs Lock and Dam. Mr. George Brunner, former Resident Engineer, Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway. Mr. G.W. Gilfallen, Executive Vice President, Morris Knudsen Company, Incorporated. Mr. T. Lewis Austin, Jr., President, Brown and Root, Incorporated. Mr. Kenneth E. Snub, Vice President of Operations. Martin E. K. Eby, Construction Company. Mr. Leroy Terveen, Vice President, L. Johnson Construction Company. Mr. Lee Miles, Project Engineer, Tin Tom Construction. Mr. E.T. Butch Hill, Project Manager, Peter Kirby Sons Company. Now, as usual, I've misstated myself. I meant to say the Corps of Engineers told these other folks what to do. The folks I presented to you are the contractors that did the work, or at least their employees did. As I come to you today, this is a happy occasion, and I think a little levity is not bad. I overlooked a man who, he and I claimed to worked on this several years ago, Brigadier General McIntyre of the Engineers, South Atlantic Division. Our friend, the Letelier, who used to be in this work too, is in Washington, and not only has helped us with the Corps during the period of his service, but has helped us since then in pointing out to the country what a great future we have down here. No, my friends, it falls my lot as master of ceremonies with the gavel in my hand to take advantage of you a little bit. But I am proud to have come along just at the right time, and it might interest you to know that when I waked up about 4 o'clock and this area had been put in my district, that I went into a store down in Tupelo, and the first thing was asked about the Tennessee-Tombigbee. They had heard about it. Well, I went back, and there's a whole lot of steps in this, and again, everybody had a part in it. But the first step, after our friends got it in shape, was a place to land. We had to have a port. So you may not realize it, but Yellow Creek Port was really the beginning of the need for a navigation project. You had to have a place to land. And for the Yellow Creek Port, we were deeply indebted to a senator from Louisiana who was quite active as chairman of the subcommittee on the Senate side. But after we got into the matter, and with the help of the staff, and may I thank the staff here collectively, looked into it from a lawyer's standpoint. Where's the hitch and what can we do now that they built it up to where I think the public's ready for it? Well, they testified that it takes longer to cut the divide cut than to do anything else. I said, well, can you use it before you get to cut? No. I said, why don't you start where it takes the longest? Then another thing in Congress, you know, if you let them start at one end, they'll quit sometime. So we saw to it that it started on both ends and in the middle. And may I say again to our friends here, Tishomingo, Prentiss, Itawamba, all the counties in northeast Mississippi, and the state itself, future students of ours, future descendants of those assembled here today, will read of this as a step forward in the history of the United States, not just northeast Mississippi. Because through this project, we are tying together the two great waterways of the southeastern region. I have a few figures here that I think would be of interest to you. This waterway system has been a major contributor to the national development of 25,000 miles of navigable waters with locks and dams at 229 different locations, helps to move 2 billion tons of commodities annually. When completed, the 235-mile Tennessee-Tombigbee will join two of the busiest navigation systems in our country. The 16,000 miles of other navigable waterways will be connected with you. And remember this and put it in your pocket. The total cost is less than 1/2 of the cost of one nuclear aircraft carrier. That'll let you put it in perspective. 131 of the nation's largest cities are situated along America's commercial commercial navigation system. Now, of course, those 131 are the biggest cities in the nation on the water system. Our city's not going to get that big overnight, but we do look for lots of growth and development from our system. As I listened truly to the invocation, I couldn't help but give silent thanks for the many lucky breaks we've had. Mr. Edwards' contact with it, mine, Tom Abbott, just go down the line. It's taken it all. But we have met those things, and we've had those good fortunes, and we're going to get through with this project sometime in the spring, probably as early as June. This will let us take our stand with the St. Lawrence Seaway, with reclamation of the West, with the Bonneville Power of the Northwest, our airports, our interstate system. I'm telling you, what we have is big. But you know, this waterway should not be looked on, however, entirely at the amount of freight it'll move. In a larger sense, the Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway represents a recognition by our generation that investments must be made if we are to provide future generations with the proper tools to maintain a prosperous and healthy economy. If the sacrifices and capital investments we make today can provide our children and future generations with a fine transportation system and adequate supplies of water, we can indeed look back with pride at our accomplishment. And I want to say something that gets overlooked in this. This project has not been built without lots of sacrifice by local people. We have families uprooted. We have communities separated. We have people who are paying the price for the rest of it. And to them I can only say that as time passes, you've got to look ahead. Revere the past, but build on it. That's what our parents and our former generations did. That's what we must do. Somebody asked me if I had thought I had changed. I said, no, but I've had to adjust to change. And I think we've all had to adjust many, many changes. But with time, history is going to judge this. There'll be a change in the right direction. As I've talked here and tried to thank all those that I could think of, and may I say there are many that you can't, this is a very small percentage of those who directly deserve your thanks. The folks who did it all, the folks that really made this possible, is those that knew how. After giving all these honors around, I'd like to now turn to that great public service organization, the U.S. Corps of Engineers. And at this time, I turn to a man who not only is an outstanding engineer in his own right, but he's the Chief of Engineers of the U.S. Corps of Engineers, General Joseph Bratton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whitten. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I think you all realize that it's a great pleasure for me to be here today as representing the Corps of Engineers and representing the United States Army. This dedication of the divide section of the Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway brings a major portion of the waterway to a reality. Frankly, I'm very glad that it's happened on my watch. I've spent 5 years watching the Tennessee-Tombigbee grow, much less time than some of the gentlemen who've just spoken to you, so I guess you'd look upon me as a newcomer, but a very interested one and a very eager one and enthusiastic one nevertheless. I hope we'll all be around at the dedication site a year from now when the entire waterway is open to navigation from Demopolis up to the Pickwick Lake in Tennessee. I want to pay brief but very particular tribute to your congressional dedication, headed by Congressman Whitten, Senator Stennis, Senator Cochran, and of course ably supported by other gentlemen that you see here today, Mr. Myers of Indiana, Mr. Edwards of Alabama, Mr. Sundquist of Tennessee. Absent today, but certainly deserving of great credit for this project, is Congressman Bevel of Alabama. We wouldn't be here today if it weren't for their efforts to authorize the project and provide the funding for a dream that began many years ago. The Corps of Engineers only builds what Congress directs it to build and what Congress provides the money for it to build with. 400 years ago, in about the year 1560, Spanish explorers recommended a canal joining the Tennessee and the Tombigbee rivers. It's been suggested down through the decades and centuries since then. We made our first study in 1827, just 3 years after the Corps assumed its role in navigation. That effort was abandoned when it proved impossible to obtain land grants to get a right-of-way. In 1874, the Mobile District surveyed several routes over the divide section. And the state of the art at that time meant going over the mountain and not through it. The design produced 25 locks on one side and 19 locks on another side. It would have been usable only during the flood season. The project was not authorized. A route studied in 1912 would have required some 40 locks. But in the 1930s, things changed. The Tennessee Valley Authority was constructing a 9-foot navigation channel on the Tennessee River, which raised the elevation of the river at the mouth of Yellow Creek and ensured an adequate water supply. The Corps issued a report in 1938 recommending construction of the waterway over the route that was called Yellow Creek, Mackey's Creek. This report provided the basic framework for the project which is being built today. This project was authorized in 1946, but the first funds were appropriated for construction in 1971. The Mobile District began construction on the project's southern end in 1972, and the Nashville District began at the northern end. But as you've already heard, one of the secrets to getting the job done was starting work at a number of places in between those two ends. and I think we contribute a lot of the progress and the commitment and the success of the project to that strategy of construction. This project is the largest single undertaking of the Corps' entire Civil Works project. The $270 million contract for the most recently completed section in the Divide Cut is the largest single Civil Works contract ever awarded by the Corps of Engineers. The job is to provide a navigation route from the north-flowing Tennessee River to the south-flowing Tombigbee. This sounds simple enough, but there were a number of very severe engineering challenges involved. The first challenge was the 175-foot ridge in the way called the Divide. The task was to remove 150 million cubic yards of earth from the cut and dispose of it in an environmentally appropriate manner. How much is 150 million cubic yards of earth? Well, some smart person has figured out that you could take that and build a superhighway from Miami, Florida to Fairbanks, Alaska. I'm not suggesting that that be a project for the Corps of Engineers, but what do you do with 150 million cubic yards of earth if you're not building something with it? Our answer was to make a wildlife management area out of it. We developed the whole Divide section and its disposal areas as a wildlife management area and turned it over to the Mississippi Department of Wildlife Conservation to manage. I think we should all be very proud of this cooperative effort and what it's resulted in. We put the material in 38 disposal areas covering about 5,000 acres. These were places of low environmental sensitivity, such as cut-over hollows or abandoned agricultural land. We contoured these areas to blend in with the natural terrain, careful not to disturb the vegetation in the nearby areas that would provide wildlife benefits. We treated the areas with tons of lime and fertilizer to make it possible to grow plants in the very acid material. Some areas required as much as 33 tons of lime per acre. The Mississippi State University ran special tests for us to determine what erosion-controlled plants would grow best in the material. We developed over 100 ponds in the disposal areas, stocking them with bass, bluegill, and catfish. And we provided nesting boxes for wood duck around these ponds. Wildlife will benefit from the 2 sub-impoundments created for waterfowl management. We've already planted nearly 1 million mixed hardwood seedlings, and we'll plant 1 million more in the next 3 years for the improvement of wildlife habitat. We are also providing maintenance facilities and administrative office for the Department of Wildlife Conservation. This is the only wildlife management area in northeast Mississippi, and I think we're all going to be proud and enthusiastic about it. Another challenge was the logistics of managing this large project. There were 36 prime contractors involved, with 5 or 6 working at once, sometimes overlapping each other. 3 resident engineer offices and an area office were in full swing, keeping the workers out of each other's way, as 6,000 to 7,000 truckloads of earth per day were being removed. There were engineering challenges. For example, to keep the groundwater from flooding the excavation, 182 wells were sunk along an 11-mile stretch of the Divide Cut. We used a unique construction technique on the Bay Springs Lock, which has an 84-foot lift, the 3rd highest east of the Mississippi. We drilled holes through the lock walls and anchored them to the rock walls with steel tendons, essentially tying them to the rock and using rock as part of the lock. The rock, in turn, that we excavated was used to build the dam, which impounds that beautiful 6,700-acre lake, which will make for invaluable and extensive recreation areas for many decades into the future. Usually when we dedicate a project, we like to give the names of all the people and the contractors who made it happen. Now, there are so many of these people in the case of this very large project that precludes me from mentioning each one. I'm going to make a general acknowledgement, and I hope each of you will hear it as an individual acknowledgement for your own particular efforts. I want to recognize the dedicated efforts of the many Nashville district planning, engineering, construction, and real estate managers, the area resident engineers and the district engineers who through the years have brought this project to completion. The entire Corps is a natural resource that has served and is continuing to serve the country in water, and related land resources planning and development, and we're very proud to have that opportunity. I want to recognize the 36 contractors, their subcontractors, for their excellent work and the outstanding result. And I know from firsthand what wonderful people they've been and what a tremendous amount of leadership and technical skill they've provided to this project. I already mentioned the role of your congressional delegation. I should also certainly mention the state and local governments, which were extremely supportive, the private interests, the private citizens whose role, support, suggestions, and sacrifices, and their accommodations to the changes of a project that of this magnitude entails were so significant in reaching completion. Now most of the big work on the Tenn-Tom is done. Next year the entire waterway will be open to navigation, connecting it with some 16,000 miles of navigable waterways and representing an enormous potential for commerce and recreation in this entire region. The project is not a monument, it's a transportation artery with incredible potential. I certainly would urge every one of you who benefits from the waterway to bring the energy and cooperation you have demonstrated in getting it built, now in bringing it to a reality, to the challenge of putting it to effective use for the good of this great region and its people and the people of the United States. As a final observation, we should acknowledge the many people, a large number of whom are present here today, who worked so long and so hard to make the Tenn-Tom come true. It took vision and perseverance and faith in the face of many delays, some tough opposition, and misunderstandings. I think we all have a right to be proud together here today. I want to thank Mr. Whitten, and I want to thank all of you for letting me participate and share in this achievement, to be with you here today and enjoy the thrill of what's been accomplished. To close, I would simply say, God bless this great engineering endeavor, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
As usual, I made one mistake here, and I'm sorry, but my friend's name was in between two governors, Mr. Larry Otis of the Tombigbee Water Management District, who's taken over where Thompson Pound quit, doing a marvelous job. Now, when my wife gets after me for forgetting you, I want you to tell her that I give you special attention. May I say to the young people here today, too, I'm mighty glad you're out here, and I'm not joking when I say in history this is going to be a major project in the future years of this nation. And you'll be able to say, we were there when it was dedicated.
What a beautiful way to end this historical day. Thank you for being here to share with us the pride all of us feel as we dedicate this section. The divide, you have given the time, talent, and some of you have even given your homesteads to bring the progress and prosperity to this area. Thank you, and Godspeed you as you return to your destination.